So can you tell me something about your educational background to begin with?
Yes, I'm the first in my family to go beyond 16 education, so certainly the first to go to university. So I ended up at the University of Essex doing government. Quite why, I don't know. Unusually for the UK at that time, the degree allowed for the selection of quite a lot of different components, which seemed nice to me and gave me some options. But I had a great time. I worked in the local student newspaper and I had a good extracurricular life as well. And what I did, and looking back on it, I didn't know that these were the things that were as important as they were, but I always made a point of taking really good notes from my classes, attending every class, and these are very basic things, but just turning up pretty rigorously and having a decent record of what you learn. Decent enough that you can revisit it for revision. I think that was probably the most important single element, if I had to put my finger on one.
Good advice.
I get asked a lot about, I want to be a journalist or I'd love to work for a newspaper. How did you end up doing that? Well, I left school and went to university and I did a degree in geography and biology. So absolutely nothing to do with what I now do. But because I don't know that every 18-year-old knows exactly what they want to do and whether they're ready to specialise in something. So I prefer, in fact, that you've done a degree, say, in something that interests you, and then you go on and do something postgraduate. I left university and went straight to the BBC, and I did a lot of in-house training there. And but if you get to the end of your university studies and think, I do want to be a journalist, and it is an exciting and hard working job. You do need to work hard. It's not all glam. There are a lot of different qualifications you can look at, and the absolute best thing you can do is get some work experience.
Well, that fits in quite well with our academic model.
Mm-hmm.
We are a liberal arts college in the classic American tradition of liberal arts. And in my case, I actually have 3 degrees in history,
okay,
bachelor's, master's, and PhD, but I've spent most of my career in IT. So it's sort of the classic liberal arts story, and you bring the same sort of experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, university is about way more than the major that you study, and it's the whole well-rounded experience that you should get if you go to the right place. And by the time you finish 3 or 4 years, as it is in America, right, you may have a much better idea of where it is you want to go, and I think that's a better time to decide.
Let's talk a little bit about your educational background.
I went on to do law at Aberdeen University. But
did you know you wanted to study law when you went to university?
It's very interesting, and I guess I owe a bit of a thank you to my careers guidance teacher, Mr. McIntosh at Harbour High School, because I went to him about 15 years of age and said I'd like to go into the police. And he said to me that I should go and read law first, and then I'd work out why I didn't want to be a policeman. So I guess he was right, but I was very grateful for that advice. And I was always interested in the law, and I think it's a great kind of grounding for anybody.
I think so too, and the law is where so many disciplines actually do come together.
Sure.
Philosophy and the logical thinking that goes into mathematics and political science.
Sure.
Can go in so many different directions.
After leaving Aberdeen, I went straight into merchant banking.
That was your first job?
That was first job, yeah.
With the Flemings?
I got onto the graduate scheme with Robert Fleming and Co. Went from there, and I haven't regretted a second of it.
Could you tell us something about your educational background and what you majored in and how that translated into your professional life?
So my undergraduate degree was in primarily politics, and in particular the politics of the Middle East. I spent some time out in the region doing honours work. I then shifted focus somewhat to do graduate work in economics, and I did that out of London at SOAS. And so from there was able to make the transition into the banking world, which not necessarily was the best fit for me, but I spent a good 10 years there, working primarily out of Hong Kong as a China economist at RBS and JP Morgan, before then deciding to set up my own company. So I think the real value for me was the time I spent, particularly here in the region, as a politics undergraduate, doing research into such issues as social concerns in either Lebanon or in Jordan. I think I took a lot of that with me, and that's really been essential to my establishing the consultancy.
tell us, if you would please, a little bit about your educational background.
My educational background is a Bachelor's of Arts degree from the State University of New York at Brockport, having also attended Niagara University, which is a private Catholic university that my father and grandfather attended. I was in the U.S. Army. I was in Vietnam for 2 tours. I came home. I finished. I wanted to go to law school, but the idea of going to more school at that time I wasn't in the mood. I went into journalism. I bought weekly newspapers with the help of some daily newspaper people who lived in upstate New York, and made that profitable and enjoyed the entrepreneurial fun involved with that. Went back to journalism to become pure journalism, to be a business editor in Syracuse. Also worked in London for the American Banker newspaper. Went back to Syracuse, worked in politics for our U.S. representative in Central New York for 12 years. And for the last 14 years, so I'm old enough to have had several careers, I've worked for Syracuse University in international outreach.
A good liberal education has been invaluable to
Yeah.
to you
Yeah.
and what you've done.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah. The answer is yes. The point of liberal arts education is never lost on people in the United States who are thinking of well-rounded educations.
And just to open so many doors.
However,
Increase
whatever
options.
degrees you go on to, whatever equivalency you accomplish in professional careers is mostly the result, we find, of liberal arts education.
So how did you get interested in chemistry? How did you finally end up majoring in that and getting a doctorate in that area?
At home, because I'm a chemist, I'm the chef as well.
Mhm.
So cooking is a good chemistry. I really don't know. I think people probably I had a good passionate chemistry teacher. Chemistry is pure magic. You take things and out comes totally something.
No, I tend to agree. I see chemistry as the interface where
Yeah.
things like physics and other sciences come together and have a direct impact on our lives. Electrovaya, I assume, was a real entrepreneurial endeavor. Anything that you could tell us, address to our students about leadership and being an entrepreneur would be of great interest.
It's more mental rewards as against physical rewards. The mental rewards.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, it's more. It's like a puzzle, and whenever you're an entrepreneur, you're traveling a road which is not well trodden, and it's a road which is new to you, and you really do not know where it's leading. It is very interesting because it's uncertain. You need a lot of optimism. With a dash of confidence and really a little bit of luck.
Any advice they could give to our students about their education? Because again, our students are just at the beginning here.
It is. And the world is changing very, very quickly. I subscribe to the view, and a lot of people, other people also, that there is a exponential change taking place. And that's, yeah.
An exponential curve
Yeah.
starts off looking something like a straight line, but then it makes this hockey stick kind of curve.
Absolutely.
So
And
you think we're almost at that point?
we are at the inflection point,
Okay.
and so your students and the young kids who are starting up will have a very, very exciting life.
But to ride that wave, education is key.
Oh, absolutely. Able to education and able to change with the wave as the waves are going to come in very, very quickly, very, very quickly.
So that's where, I mean, I want to put in a plug here for our liberal arts curriculum, because I think that's where training
Very
in things
much
like
so.
philosophy and humanities
Absolutely.
to appreciate this kind of flexibility.
And so as an education, what it's doing is training yourself to be flexible as new ideas, new products, new everything coming at a breathless pace. And
Okay. Exciting times.
Exciting times.